as it relates to the ongoing coaching carousel and somebody who could have been part of the coaching carousel. But the Vikings moved quickly and swiftly. A week after their season ended, they got a deal done with Kevin O'Connell to end any drama, any tension, any possibility that he would say, you know what, I'm just going to finish out my contract. You didn't pay me after 2 years. You made me earn my contract with a third year. I'm just going to go a fourth year, and I'll say bye-bye and become a free agent. So against that background, and the tension was real. And, Chris, I made this observation on Twitter last night, and I shared it on the show text thread. To anyone who insists that there were no issues whatsoever between the two simply because they got a deal done, I don't know how you passed your written driver's exam, because they are two completely different things. And the speed with which they got the deal done tells you there was urgency to get the deal done. They had another full year of football. They could have waited up until the start of the regular season if they wanted to. They got this thing done now, because if he's going to walk away next year, this is the opportunity to trade him to another team and get compensation. And there were teams that were interested. Jay Glazer's report was accurate. Not that any of his reports are ever accurate. I don't want him to choke me out in New Orleans. So there was something going on. It got a deal done. It got the two sides together, and he'll be in Minnesota for years to come. And Vikings fans very excited about that. Not as excited as they would have been if, the last two games didn't turn out 58-18, but still very excited.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, it does seem like it got a little contentious a little bit, certainly, right? I get that. But, at the same time, it's odd to ever see a coach of Kevin O'Connell's, hierarchy, how good he is, right? To reach the last year of the lame duck contract situation. That is odd. It does cut out a little power from a head coach. I do believe in that to a degree. It's not totality, but I do agree it undermines the coach to a degree. Yeah, because you're like, well, I don't even know if he's going to be here next year. So this is like the biggest no-brainer, sign this guy up long-term as you're going to find in the NFL. There's not that many guys that are Kevin O'Connell that grow on trees. This is the new thing that everybody in the NFL is trying to find, is the offensive brain surgeon who can just surgically destroy you in the passing game, and he's a quarterback whisperer. It's all we hear about every year with every hiring cycle. So, I'm glad to see him do it. I'm glad for you. I'm glad for the Viking fans, and it's a duh. Kevin O'Connell, as you've heard me say 500 million times over the last year and a half or so, he is without question one of the 5 best offensive coordinator play callers in the game, especially when it comes to the passing game. That's where he is really, really special. Could he improve in the run game? Okay, yeah, certainly. But damn, the results speak for themselves. What we see on the offensive side, the stats, the way players that didn't look as great before they got Kevin O'Connell, and they get Kevin O'Connell and they look a lot better. I think he's got everything you want to run your organization. So happy to see them get that done.
3 years as a head coach, 34-17 record, first coach in franchise history to win 13 or more games twice, and he's only been there 3 seasons. But everyone can improve, everyone can grow, everyone can develop. He's still early in the life cycle of his coaching career, and those would be the two main criticisms. One, they really need to invest more in the running game. They need a big bruising between the tackles runner. They need to gravitate more toward a Derrick Henry than an Aaron Jones, all due respect to Aaron Jones. And when you have Aaron Jones, you need to use him more than you did. Now, I know there were health concerns, but still, use the guy you have who's healthy. Have a backup who can step in if he gets injured. Understand there's a chance the starter's going to get injured, and if that happens, we go with the backup, and if that happens, we go with number 3. But lean into the guy who is your best and use him and balance out that passing game. And if you have success running the football, it's an age-old reality. You're going to have success passing the football because they're going to adapt what they're doing to try to stop you from running. If you are gashing them, you draw the 8th man down into the box, and the next thing you know, play action over the top, touchdown. That's how you make it work, and they need to do more of that. And the other thing, too, Chris, there's got to be a better self-scout going into playoff games, because I think that's one of the big reasons why. Defensively, the last time around against the Giants, this time it was offensively. They didn't spot their tendencies. They didn't spot their tells. They didn't stay a step ahead of Chris Shula, the Rams defensive coordinator, as assisted and augmented by Sean McVay. On a busy, topsy-turvy week for the Rams, they found time to figure out what the Vikings had been doing all year long and attack it. And the Vikings didn't shore up their weaknesses because whatever they showed on film for 17 games, it was there at the right time. Case in point, that corner blitz on play action.
Yeah.
It was a big moment in the game. That's a product of knowing what you're going to get based on the pre-snap look, based on down and distance, all the shit that happens, sorry, Archie, when you're studying film and understanding what a team does in this spot. And that's where Kevin O'Connell needs to be able to take it beyond what we see from week 1 through week 18.
Listen, I hear you there. I agree with a lot of what you said there. There's no doubt about it. The running game, like you said, that's an area he can improve, right? And he's got to invest in the running game too. He's a little too quick as far as being pass happy, but I understand that when you got some of the weapons that he does at his disposal in the pass game, getting after that a little bit. But I do think, it'll help the team out in totality, right? Hey, the quarterback issue and all of that, hey, I think he's gone above and beyond as far as the results with who he had at quarterback and how the team is, right? The one thing I'd even say, too, with the 2 playoff appearances, the record was good. It was really good. But, at no point during last year or the first year of Kevin O'Connell's coaching career did it feel like they were a dominant football team. It was always like, hey, they got the job done in the regular season. And as we know, the playoffs are different. And you're right, self-scout thyself, playing a common opponent that certainly knows some of the tricks of the trade and how they call things and all that, I think came back to bite him in the butt, especially when it was the second matchup of the year. But he's going to have to answer playoff questions, a little bit like Lamar Jackson is until he starts to win those football games. What I would also say is I think, too, because he's such a good coach, he made expectations for the playoffs maybe a little higher than they should have been because of what he could do in the regular season with that football team. I still think there's some holes in the roster, too, to make us think whether they're in the class of, a healthy an Eagles team or a healthy Lions football team or a team like the Ravens or the Chiefs or the Bills. I don't think they're quite there with their totality in their roster yet. And I think, hey, let's see how this goes. And Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, hopefully he can continue to improve that area and they can continue this, positive combination that they've created here so far in 3 years.
Next up to get a new contract is Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the third year going into fourth year general manager. And Mark Wilf, co-owner of the Vikings, told one of the newspapers up there, I think it was the Star Tribune, right before week 18, right before the crap hit the fan with Glazer's report that multiple teams were interested in trading for O'Connell. Wilf said after the season, we're going to take care of both guys. They focused on O'Connell first. And that gets back to what I was saying earlier. There was urgency to do it, folks, because if they were at impasse, and O'Connell was going to walk away after 2025, and it was at least on his mind as an option. I don't know how easy it would have been to execute, but it was on his mind as an option. If he's going to leave, and you're getting no compensation after this year, and you're going to have his status hanging over your season and distracting your team all year long, you could try to trade him now, get a couple of first-round picks, and just move on. End of the day, they decided not to. We don't know how long the contract is. It's a multi-year extension, which means he's under contract for at least 3 years because multi-year's 2. He's got 1 year left. It's an extension, not a new contract, as it was announced by the Vikings. So math is usually very difficult for me, but in this instance, I am able somehow, by the hair of my chinny chin chin, to get 2 + 1. That's 3. Maybe it's more. Maybe it's 4. Maybe it's 5. Who knows? And we don't know how much he's getting. And I think it also helped, Chris, and it probably helped O'Connell, and maybe it gave the Wilfs the last little kick in the ass they needed to accept the fact sometimes you got to pay for a coach, even though there's no salary cap or salary floor, and it's all eating into your profit margin. And you don't have to worry about going to the league meetings in March and getting dirty looks from the other owners because, by all indications, the Bears blew out the entry-level curve for Ben Johnson. I heard $13 million the other day, and I've heard nothing to the contrary from anyone associated with that transaction. $13 million a year. That makes it even more expensive for Kevin O'Connell. So I have a feeling that number was the thing that broke the ice between the Vikings and the Wilfs, or the Vikings and O'Connell, on what it was going to take to get it done. I don't think it's a coincidence that Johnson gets paid Monday and O'Connell gets paid Tuesday.
I hear you. I'm sure there's something to that. I mean, either way, I don't. The Wilfs, what they're looking at. You're looking at a coach that's top of the market. He deserves to be paid like one of the coaches that are up there. I'm not saying he deserves to be like McVay or Andy Reid or even Shanahan quite yet, but that notch below. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's I have no problem with Kevin O'Connell being in that ballpark, and the Wolves, hey, invest in the guy. Damn, I mean, he's exceeded expectations. He's made Kirk Cousins better than what he was. So we saw that, and the team and what you did that first year. Second year, it was like, oh, watch out, here come the Vikings, and then Kirk Cousins got hurt, and you still stayed in the race. And then last year, of course, was Sam Darnold, who everybody's been telling us is trash for the last few years. And you come out and have this type of year. I mean, again, the results speak for themselves. I know that the finish line or the playoffs and how it finished didn't end the way it should, but I don't think that's all on Kevin O'Connell, too. I don't. I haven't looked, and I didn't look at the Vikings that night and go, well, they're just so much more physically gifted than the Los Angeles Rams. They should win the game. Not at all. I think that's the next piece of this. This is where O'Connell's a great coach. We've talked about some of the areas he can improve. They got a really good coach on the defensive side of the ball in Brian Flores. Now, to me, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is the next guy that's got to go up to another level here, right? The offense is set up. I don't think you need a whole lot other than maybe if you want to dive into that running back conversation like you talked about. Defensively, I think there's some things there to improve. I don't look at the players on the roster on the defensive side of the ball in Minnesota and go, oh my gosh, how will any team move the ball on them? Yeah, they got some good players. We like the two edge guys, but they can improve defensive tackle play. The secondary is certainly not scaring teams. It's done a lot, and it's, I think, a little bit better statistically, the Vikings defense, because of the coaching, not necessarily because of the players. And I think that's the next step here, and that's why I'm glad they did this, because I'm like, hey, this isn't a finished product yet. It's year 3. Let these two work, get things down, lay down the groundwork as far as them getting paid that you're going to have them for a while, and they can set up a formula for the future to continue to kick some ass. And I think that's the potential of these two when they're together here, and I'm happy to see the Vikings do it.
Yeah, and we'll see where it goes from here. But just to put one last button on it, because it is irritating that people are so stupid that they think that because the deal got done yesterday, there were no issues. There were issues. There was tension. And if the Vikings and O'Connell had not reached a deal that was acceptable to O'Connell, his door number 2 was to finish his contract and become a rare thing, a free agent. But he had that opportunity and he had that option. And that's how the Jay Glazer report came to be, because people understood that there was frustration that he didn't get the contract after his second year. After he turned chicken you-know-what into chicken salad and got to a 7-10 record where they were contenders right up until the very end.
Right.
They had the Josh Dobbs thing, and they were looking good before Kirk Cousins' Achilles blew out. He has done a great job of coaching, and he felt that he shouldn't have had to prove it for a third year before he got his security and his reward for what he's accomplished as a head coach. That was real. And if you think that it wasn't just because the contract is done, I feel bad for anybody who has to work with you, live with you, interact with you, because you ain't all that bright. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.